Oh, you're clean shaven now.
I told you it was temporary, but I do miss it.
Oh,
I was actually I liked it more than I thought. With the exception of I don't want it for about 1 month out of the year. I found that thing is like a hook and loop when you walk through the woods. It's just a pine needle collector. Just have all sorts of nonsense going in there.
yeah, no, I'm sure.
But outside of that, I'll probably grow it back at some
It
point.
was fun to have a pet on your face, wasn't it?
Was being a stay at home mom, it gave me something to do.
Right?
Something else to manage on top of everything else. I'm an
That's
artist.
enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm an artist too. It's just one more thing I could craft in the morning.
We need to get you. Do you have one of those like? Because I know I do because it's behind me. Like, do you have one of those like those Cardillo belts that like have like a custom embroider on it?
There. It's it's custom with a Sharpie.
A Sharpie.
It says Bad Chad.
We need to get you one that says Chicago. Just a great white bat. Because every time I see you, you're just so white. Just it keeps you so white.
So I know, and I mean maybe it's lighting because I was priding myself on my sunbathing this season.
Well, I mean, did you sunbathe on your vacation, your vacation?
I did. I've been sunbathing. I feel
you.
great.
This is you sunbathed.
This is me sunbathed.
Wow.
I mean 30 minutes a day sunbathed in real sun.
It's getting that vitamin D in.
I feel great, but yeah, you can't fight those strong Scottish genes. So it be
Some Scott genes. Well, yeah, your people went right from Scotland right to pretty much the only state in the Union that is Scotland.
Correct.
Like just same weather. Just
yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's identical. I've never felt so comfortable. I don't think it's just because it's the homeland. I think it's because it's so similar to Washington.
Okay.
It was identical. It's funny when I went there. We'd been through a bunch of other countries, and it was blazing hot from North Africa all the way to almost Spain. And as soon as I was like, from a lack of sleep and dehydrated and drinking escapades, we got to Scotland.
Right.
The weather was just like Washington. And I was like,
yep,
we can relax here.
Was it more breezy? Yeah, was there more wind?
I couldn't. Than Washington?
Yeah.
Not where I live, because we're kind of in an inlet, so we get a lot of wind. So it was identical, but yeah, I would say when it did rain there, it was windier in general. Every day it rained, it was a little bit windy, where you get days here where it's not windy.
How long are you over there?
A week.
Okay. So but it rained every day.
I think so. It stopped raining at a couple times a couple points in the day, but yeah, it rained every day. I wasn't upset though.
No, did everyone say that was pretty much normal? Like that's literally every day of the year?
Yeah, and that was I have to think it was June, July, into June, maybe beginning of July. I could be wrong, but
and it was that rainy then.
And it was that rainy.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you play the Uber American card, or did you try to blend in?
It was cold too. Most places I tried to blend in until you had to order something, and then the wheels fell off the wagon. Oh,
right.
You guys aren't from here, are you?
You're not from around here. No.
I think I've already said this, that some people speak English quite well, and they won't do it on principle until they watch you struggle a little bit with their native tongue in countries.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if you're trying, they'll help you.
Yeah.
You just walk in and be like, kind of with like a, fuck it, I'm an American. I'm speaking English.
Right. You can't do this to me. I'm an American.
Yeah. They'll do the exact opposite on purpose, which I'm like, I might do the same thing, especially when you work in, I don't know, certain jobs where the entertainment level is very low and you might be bored. I'm sure they're just entertaining themselves with watching you try to just order something real simple off a menu, and they definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they just
it's funny that American-esque like attitude. There's I'm sure I'm gonna butcher this story, but Corella, she's from like Northern Africa. So there are times where like the whole family they'll go back to see all their family there or in France.
Okay.
And they're going through at some point, I forgot how old she was. I think it was like her college years. They were going to Algeria. And I think they were doing like a simple up down flight from either France to Algeria. I think it was Algeria to France.
Okay.
Just up down.
Yep.
And there was an American there. Of course, they're American, but they speak 4 or 5 languages, so they blended in. Obviously they're from there, so whatever. So they're going through there, and for some reason that American gets like pulled, and in that country, it's a predominantly Muslim-run country.
Yes.
And so, like, as an American, you get pulled out. Like, that's probably not a good scenario. This guy just loses it and starts screaming, "You can't do this to me! I'm an American!" I'm like, that's exactly what you don't say in that scenario. You don't say that. You don't do that.
Has very little weight.
In that scenario, in a Muslim country, not the thing to say. I'm an American. You can't do this to me.
Have I said that when I woke up the first one? Because I got into in Morocco like really, really late at night. And which I don't recommend showing up in third world countries late at night. Get there early in the morning.
That sounds promising.
Get a good lay of the land. This is just something that you'd never ever think about until you're in a sort of sketchy situation, or at least perceived is probably the key word there.
Mm-hmm.
Foreign third world countries where your ability to navigate might be questionable. Do not show up in those countries.
But aren't there a lot of whites in Morocco?
7 o'clock.
Like, I thought like Morocco, like I met a chick from Morocco when I was a sophomore in college, and she was like porcelain white. And she told me that a lot of that country is white. Or am I way off?
I mean, when I looked at some of like the complexion, I'd be curious to see what like a native Moroccan would look like if they lived in Washington, because I don't know. It's not like they have a really tan complexion. I've seen certain ethnicities that have tan complexions or get really tan, not live in those places, and lose a very strange amount of that coloring.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like there are some that they look to be fair skinned, and I feel like if they didn't live in a really sunny environment, and I don't know. Yeah, and I would think generally in that culture people are outside a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, almost all European countries they are though.
Yeah, it was kind of weird when I was thinking about it before I said it, because I was like, man, people are indoors so much in the States. It's actually odd when I say it.
We see people out.
It never crossed my mind until right now, because that is one of the there are some very, very intriguing things about like European lifestyle with a broad brushstroke. Like obviously different countries are very different, but generally from what I saw, I would just say everyone on the other side of the ocean seems to be outside more. I don't know that they're actively doing stuff, but whether they're laying on a nude beach or just leaving their house to go get coffee or whatever it is, like they're out.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I never thought about this, but you look at when we think about European countries as Americans, because we're atrocious at geography, at least the majority of us are.
Yeah.
We think of Ireland, the UK, Italy, Greece, the Mediterranean coast. Obviously, there is the Eastern Bloc, Czechoslovakia, all that area. But you think of Europe, you usually think of those countries, and like those are all. They're all like I don't want to go out on a lamb and say this, but it's like a bunch of Floridas.
Yeah,
just your coastline everywhere. So that would be would that not be more of an active culture anyway, more of an outdoorsy, like my time I spent in Miami, like you are outside. There are a lot of people outside. It's a very active, like they're going to the beach, like being out, sunbathing, what have you. Like it is. You start thinking about that. Yeah,
I would say like South France. If I was to wake up and if you only did one thing different, I would think I was in Miami.
100%. Oh,
if I woke up and people were in shape, I'd be like, oh, I'm in Miami right now. That's the only difference. The only difference between
French
Miami,
small. Yeah.
The only difference that I see visually, other than maybe not some of the like really, other than some of the architecture, yeah, you just there's just people that are in shape. Like fitness is a thing on Miami where it's not in those other countries.
No. But it's really the irony is abound because so Carell's brother is just finished up his PhD. He lives in France, in Lyon.
Yeah.
And that was where actually her mother just got back from her, spending 3 months overseas. And she and I had a conversation just yesterday about the south of France. And she named off, 2 or 3 places that, as an American, I gotta be honest with you, I don't remember how to pronounce them. Don't remember. But she literally, words out of her mouth were out of your mouth, where it was like, yeah, it's literally Miami in France.
That's funny.
It's I'm like, great, I guess. And I also heard today, that air conditioning is not really a thing there.
No.
And neither, like Yetis, they don't exist. Her mother went around with her phone with like one of those OG like igloos. You can get like $10, but like they're good.
Yeah.
Like, where do I buy this? And everyone's looking at it like, I have no idea what that is. I have no idea what that is.
Maybe we're onto a few things. Maybe if you just take away a few amenities from a culture, you are forced to
go outside.
Go outside and be more active.
Be more active.
That's all it is. That's all it is. They want to be inside in those countries. They have no AC or
creature comforts, right?
Yeah, it is uncomfortable.
Well, see, you see it that way. I see it like this. I see a phenomenal venture capitalist opportunity importing igloos and Yetis to France.
That's probably smarter.
And then team up with Evian, do something sexy with Evian. Oh yeah.
We need to have a gym in Nice because it doesn't exist. There's enough of a
sporting
culture. They got a football team. Maybe. We don't know. We'll have to ask Connor next time we have him on.
He's a man of international mystery.
Yes.
He lives abroad.
And growing more.
Growing tired of being
every time I talk to him, he becomes more. He is the James Bond of strength conditioning in my mind. Just
sleeps with all the strength coaches and then kills them, or they wind up dead. He leaves a trail of dead people in his path.
Depending on depending on what portion of James Bond you cling to, there that could be a totally different rest.
I mean, there have been some different James Bonds, and like I said in previous podcasts, we will not be discussing James Bond films anymore.
Right.
Unless we were discussing like the Sean Connery age, Timothy Dalton age, we won't be discussing.
Yeah, it's off the table now.
No. No.
Apparently, we can't discuss Keanu Reeves either.
No, I'd rather not.
Okay.
I get it. A lot of people love Keanu. I understand he's a great person. I'm sure if we and I both met him, I bet we'd hit it off. Have a great time. But I don't know. He's in my mind. He's been pumped up the last couple of years as being like this uber action stud. I'm like, I don't know. He's done three uber action movies. Like I watched all of John Wick's.
Yeah.
As an action movie goes, like, really good. And he spent a lot of time perfecting that. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate the craft. I really do.
Oh,
and then you look back at like
I want to train him a little bit before he does these movies. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know where I'm going with this. Yeah. But like you go back to other movies, you're like, oh man, like, oh, some of the acting is just rough. It's rough, man. Which I think is why he's so good at those like really in-depth action movies. Because I think he has that one-track mind where it's like, I'm gonna get really, really good at these several variables.
Sure.
And because he's so good at those variables, he doesn't have to be an Anthony Hopkins when he's on screen.
I would totally agree with that.
And that's why he can portray a great, absolute badass.
Yeah, because there does seem to be a slight lack of depth in his
you can say it.
His ability to be dynamic as an actor.
Just a little bit.
It doesn't bother me is because he seems to be cast in roles where it's not an issue. But I feel like if you did, I don't know. I'm just trying to picture like what's the role that had him actually acting the most? Probably.
Don't say Lake House.
No, I don't remember that well enough.
That was a Sandra Bullock one where they're going back and forth in time.
I remember with the letter and the thing.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, it's a little.
I'm a chick flick fan.
I was thinking Hardball maybe would be the movie that I might choose where he was actually trying to play something that's not Keanu Reeves.
Well, if we're going on that line, would that also be The Replacements?
There you go.
Got a
But
great cast though. That a great cast and a
that has a
phenomenal
great
supporting cast.
that has a great cast, and
Phenomenal.
I don't know. I feel like because once again you're playing, it's almost like you're playing character. I don't know. This is a dumb thing. This sounds dumb coming out of my mouth. I don't know how to say it. Maybe you can help me. When you're playing a role of someone that arguably doesn't have to like act, it's just a really normal person. Like the Replacements is a comedy.
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah.
Also, you're playing like sports stars, which are like complete characters, and there's a
In
lot of people.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people like the weird nuance of just a human, like people that I've played with in sports, like people are weird. Like so
The good ones
think
are.
the good ones are
The
weird.
ones
So
that are
here,
good and great are always a little kooky. They gotta be a little, you gotta be a little crazy to be really fucking good
so
at what you're doing.
so I almost feel like Keanu Reeves just being totally normal would make a great character for, playing a quarterback. But that's the same character, in my opinion, that he played in Point Break.
Yeah, well, he also is playing across from Patrick Swayze,
I know.
and
That's
you
what I'm
don't
saying.
you don't fuck with Swayze.
Nope.
No
Nope.
Swayze, no Wayze. That's what I say. Roadhouse 2, nope. No Swayze, no Wayze.
Before
Nope.
Swayze's gone, right?
Yes, he
Rest in
got
peace.
pancreatic cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mhm.
I guess.
Did you ever watch The Beast?
Huge asshole. No.
He was?
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know that. I didn't hear
It
this.
kind of hurt me. Yeah, I guess like just
Wow.
generally, like you ran into him or you're someone that went asking for an autograph. I guess he was an asshole.
Yeah.
I have 2 firsthand accounts of people saying that.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, I went up to him like in I don't know, Vegas or something like that, and tried to talk to him. Like,
I do gotta be honest.
Away from him.
Yeah, with that,
I don't know though.
like,
He's Patrick Swayze, so I'm like, dude, he must be prodded at.
This is what I'm
by
saying.
Women. So they're both women.
Oh,
well, and men.
The women. Oh, well, yes, women and certain men. Yes,
I bet Patrick Swayze, especially in that era, where celebrities are somewhat accessible. Maybe it tones people down. It's hard for me to even think about this because I care less. I want to talk to Keanu Reeves as much as I want to talk to you right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Oh, am I insulted by that?
No.
Okay.
I
was making sure.
I would really like
excited for a second. Wait a minute.
I would really like to hang out with Keanu Reeves. I'd like to know if he's as good of a guy as people say he is. But I bet in that era, I bet he was pawed over so much that you really couldn't go out and do anything normal if you're Patrick Swayze without being accosted.
No, you can't. And you're talking about not just like years of that, decades of doing it and being like asked. And that's why, like, whenever I've seen a celebrity, the few times I have out in public, I don't approach them, even though I'm like, oh my God, it's this person. I've watched all the guy's movies or I've watched this guy's career. I'm not going to, because I know that that guy's just trying to live his life, man.
Right.
He's trying to live his life.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I've ran into quite a few. Who's the most famous person you have seen within distance where you could have approached them if you wanted to?
Rob Thomas.
Ooh.
Yeah. Who to me is like in the music industry. If you hate him or love Rob Thomas or Matchbox 20, he's the most famous, unrecognizable person in the world. In my mind. You've been slaying it since 95, 96, and you're still slaying it.
That's a really good point.
Soundtracks, and no one really knows who he is unless you have a pertinent visual, but you know his voice. You know the man's voice.
Yeah.
And he's written for everyone. He's done 2 songs with Santana.
Right.
So at that level, you go like, however many platinum. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love
but like, I just can't. Actually, it's funny. I know a girl who knew he was actually coming to Columbus to go to a radio station. He was doing like I think he was coming through with Matchbox a while ago when they released their previous album, their last album they did on. And she knew he was going to this, and she like pulled into the radio station and sat there for like 4 hours waiting for Rob Thomas to appear. I'm gonna tell you, that's dedication.
That is that, but I also think that that's maybe why Patrick Swayze was a dick, because
maybe it
wasn't just that one girl. It was 100,000 people that maybe did that to him anytime he went anywhere. I don't know.
Yeah,
Patrick Swayze was like the man.
Decades of man.
For I'm trying to think, what is that genre? Like when we talk about James Bond as being like that type of person, Patrick Swayze was like the ultimate, I don't know, like ladies' man in that era.
Yeah, I'd say 80s. He was. I always say that, like, a man's man. Like he was a gentleman's gentleman. Like
that's what they were portraying as the man's man was Patrick Swayze back then, which now is interesting because like, oh, that was super feminine from like the way I look at it.
Oh, 100%.
Dirty Dancing removed, I would still say that.
Yeah. Oh no, he did a lot of chick flicks, but it's just one of those things where he would do a chick flick and it wouldn't be over the top or obscene. It'd be more realistic. And then the next year, he's doing, Roadhouse, and he's kicking people's asses with rules, not breaking rules, with rules until he has to break the rules, and then he breaks them and rips a throat out.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of thing where it's like I think it's kind of missing today. There's no one that's like that can transcend those genres back and forth.
Yeah.
And really execute on a high level. Yeah. And he was in shape for virtually his entire career. Like I think even when he did The Beast, which was his last TV show he did with the guy who went on to
Is that worth watching?
Oh, 100%. I think there's only one season of it because that was when he died. He knew he had pancreatic cancer through that. And the guy across from him, did you ever watch that show? Or hear about it?
The Beast?
Yeah.
Definitely heard about it, but I'm writing it down now because I want to check it out.
He's like a CIA, like deep cover CIA, and they think he's turned, so they send this like newer guy to like team up with like rookie to team up with them to like make his bones, like find out if he is or not. And the guy they team up with them is the guy that after Swayze passed away and they moved on from that project because the main character's gone. Mm-hmm. He was the guy that went on to play Ragnar Lothbrok in Vikings.
Oh, okay.
Well, and is now in that HBO show like Raised by Wolves.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I forgot his name. I should know his name. I don't. But really good show. Really dark. Okay. Really messed up.
All right.
Like undercover arms dealer being chased by Russians and the CIA.
I'm all about that.
It's pretty good.
That seems to be the only thing, like if you were to tell me like what is intriguing to me, like movie wise or something that I'd actually like something you could convince me would be interesting. It's all like dark mob, mafia. That's the only stuff that seems to interest me now.
Oh, you put mafia and Nazis in the same sentence, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Stuff like that. I like the darker stuff. I like the only thing that I seem to enjoy lately is Quentin Tarantino movies.
Oh yeah. They're over there. Did you talk about Quentin Tarantino movies? Did you this is not a Quentin Tarantino movie, but it ties into our Keanu Reeves, John Wick, and Quentin Tarantino side. Have you seen Day Shift yet?
No.
Okay. Let me throw this out to you. If I told you there was an action movie with Academy Award winner Jamie Foxx, are you in? Oh. Knee-jerk reaction. Are you in?
Yeah.
For a Friday night movie. Okay, let me.
Yeah, you gotta give it. You gotta honor it.
Okay. Told you there was an action movie with Academy Award winner Jamie Foxx and Dave Franco as his cheesy sidekick. He's still in. Okay. What if I told you there was a movie with these two and Snoop Dogg? Are you in?
Oh yeah, you reeled me back. You reeled me back to the line. You brought me back closer. Yeah. I started to waver just a touch, and then you brought me back in.
Okay, so this movie Day Shift, essentially, it's a Netflix movie, and it's about.
I've seen the little trailer thing.
Yeah, 100% worth. It's like 2 hours, 100% worth it. It's getting horrible reviews. I don't know why. I think everyone's too literal these days, and they think every movie that comes out is supposed to be an Academy Award nominee. It's like, dude, this is an action movie. Let's calm down. But do you know in that Django, whenever like Jamie Foxx shoots somebody, they blow back like 20 yards.
Yeah, who is Django? Is that it? Is that
that's Tarantino? Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, man, if that wasn't, that definitely.
No, it was.
Someone definitely copied him.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Whenever they shoot someone, they blow back, and basically it's about vampires are real. There's this like underground society called the Union that basically contracts out to like kill these 5 types of vampire.
Yep.
I won't spoil it for you, but long story short, he gets in a bit of a pickle, you know. And yeah, I know.
All you had to really say was just vampires and Snoop Dogg.
It's pretty good. I mean, you're talking about Snoop Dogg with a minigun. I mean,
oh, man, okay.
And like all the pistols they have are all Sig Sauers. They're all like with like Romeo sights. Like it's the sexy firearms throughout.
See, this is why we do these podcasts. It really is purely
for selfish
reasons.
Oh yeah, it was great. 'Cause I forced Corella to watch it. That was her penance for not cooking rice the
And
other day.
what was her?
Yeah, yeah. And she sat down and she's like, "Well, let me charge my phone so I can play Tetris." Because she has this Tetris game. When she gets bored, she plays that with solitaire. I'm like, "All right." And the first 10 minutes, like, this is so stupid. This is so dumb. And then
Yeah.
she starts like, kind
You're
of
laughing
laughing at it.
like Peter Griffin in the corner.
Yeah. And then she starts to just bawl laughing because it's just so over the top and the writing's really
Sure.
good. And one of the directors slash writers was a stuntman for John Wick 3.
Okay.
So that's how it ties in. So there is a
Interesting.
lot of good, like, over the top, but like hand to hand, like, combat.
Okay.
And so I
Okay. So she ended up
definitely,
liking it.
oh, she loved it. She stayed awake the whole thing. So I have
Okay.
to go to bed at 9 o'clock. So at 10:30, she's like, well, I might as well finish it. Okay,
Okay.
okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sold. That'll be.
That's it with
Nope.
that. And
Nope.
have you watched any preseason yet?
Mm-mm.
No, dude. Second play of the first drive, the first preseason game. Cleveland Browns starting center blows his knee out. I think we are a season, maybe 2 seasons away from never seeing starters during preseason until maybe the last game's first series. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
just too much money just got flushed down the toilet.
You know how we fix that? We stop paying them so much money. Then it's no
Well,
big deal.
then there's just too little money being flushed down the toilet.
We should play it out and just see what happens. I think the quality of everything would go up.
Really, when they have to like actually like struggle
Pay
for it.
them with a purely reward system. No money.
So
only,
XFL.
Only rewards.
So Vince got it right. That's what they're being paid. They have a base salary, really low base salary, and if they win, they get money. The only trick is if you do that, you're almost constituting. You're actually encouraging people to bend the rules and cheat.
I think it'd be more entertaining.
No, I don't disagree with you.
That's
I don't disagree with you at all.
I want everyone to get paid $20,000. No. Well, you got to give them the best insurance ever. At least that, because that's
insurance for
fair.
life.
Insurance for life.
If you play a whole season, if you play a whole season,
yep.
If you see the field during a whole season for all or 18 games,
yeah, put a number on that. Put a number on it. Yeah.
Or cumulatively, sure.
I'm sure if we sit down at a table and really crack this thing out, we come with a really good system. But yeah, you give them something like that, low base salary. But I would say it's like, I don't know, take the average, make it an everyman average. You know, what is the single? I mean, take that demographic too. Let's scale it across. So we're gonna take 20 to 35-year-old males. What is the average income that they're making in the U.S.? That's their base pay.
Yeah.
Just to standardize it. And then everyone will be more connected too, because it's like, hey man, you're just like me. But then you just give really good incentives when you do good.
Yeah.
Like a video game type of incentive. Like you can give them stuff on the spot during the game for all I care.
Yeah.
Rewards right there. Got a touchdown? Here's your Skittles.
I feel like
obviously better than that, but
right. I feel like if that was done, I almost guarantee American rugby would spike. It would go up. Because I bet the rugby, you know
what? Did Connor go into that? Did he go into how much the pro rugby players are making? The best players in the world?
Yeah.
Not much. Very much.
Not much. No, I remember. Well, remember that? Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
So they do those series called Everything, like All or Nothing. Everything. Great series, great series. And they've done they're doing Arsenal this season, which is fucking dope. I love Premier Soccer. It's so great.
Yeah.
But when they did the All Blacks, I think they went into the All Blacks, and I remember hearing how much they were making. Like, really? That's it for the most storied, dominant franchise.
Yeah.
In rugby all time. Like, really?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting to me because we were talking. We didn't go into this in the podcast, but we were going into what it looks like to play on those international rugby leagues in Japan, because Japan has their corporate teams. Like if you have Amazon, if we were to do it over here, the equivalent, like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Blizzard, whatever, all the Toyota, they all have their own team for the company, and they play inter-company games
Mm-hmm.
just for street cred and bragging rights, but they get paid very well to do that. But when you're on the Olympic stage competing at the highest level, it's
No, it's privilege based.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's like, well, I'm not going to pay you much of anything at all for the Olympics because it's privilege. Which I gotta be honest with you, like I remember like the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team.
Yeah.
I remember every Olympic cycle comes around, there's always like a couple players who were all like, say basketball players, big players who are studs that elect not to do it. Like, no, I'm not going to go. And it's not because I want someone else to have the opportunity because I've already been. It's just because I just don't want to do it because it's a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And in my mind, because I'm really messed up, I think to myself, like, you need to do that. Your country needs you to win.
Sure.
That's every 4 years. You need to sack up with that one and get it done and keep carrying the mantle and just do it. Like spend the several months getting to know everyone that you kind of know, but you haven't played with, learn some new, quote unquote new skills. But it just seems to me like that's something that you know what, you have to do that. You have to. It would be like if you or I got a call like, hey, we want you to be, I don't know, the strength coach for the fencing team for this Olympic cycle, whatever. You'll be employed for 4 months. You and I being like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, no, your country asked you to do something because they believe that you are the best at that. And they're asking you to do that to compete against the rest of, I don't know, the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Short rant, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I probably in the scenario of you and I getting the phone call to do something like that, I would probably do that. But if I felt like it didn't serve me, or I didn't think it was going to give me the like money is not a factor here. Just if I didn't think the experience was going to be rewarding, I wouldn't do it. And I have to imagine that if you're, I don't want to use Michael Jordan, but I'm going to use Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's not going to be tested in that arena, I don't think, really.
No, but he did it for how many years?
I don't know.
He went to the
pretty
Olympics.
Much as he did, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see. I mean, because you just know, like the best competition those guys are seeing won't be in the Olympics. It'll be right here on their own ground. Right. So I could see someone making that claim. Also, I could just see like that's a very ego-heavy sport. Yeah, if you're not, I mean, I think that's a testament to where those guys might at. The ones that decide to do that, it almost feels like it's a very selfless act because you're putting your body, your career, like you're taking on more than you need to looking at it from a business standpoint. You don't need to do any of that. Maybe there's some role carryover, if you when you win and you're part of that team and stuff. But I feel like, if you do that, you're just doing it because you want to, exactly like you laid out. You want to carry the torch for the country. You got some pride and find some value in representing.
Yeah. I mean, it's every 4 years.
I mean, it's not. It's
not every year. It's not every 2. It's every 4.
Can't be a huge commitment when you're coming from over here. It just that's just like a preseason warm-up, I'm sure, for most of those guys,
especially when you have that many studs in the same team.
Yeah,
like uber stud.
When you watch some of those countries play basketball, it is interesting to see the style,
how it changes.
You take a Ukrainian team that because they have like a stature wise, like those guys look like they could compete with us.
Yes.
Interesting to see some of those Eastern Bloc teams that physically have recruited the bodies that you'd see in the NBA.
Yeah.
But they play technical basketball. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I don't think
the sport looks different.
Yes. I think the sport looks different on that regard, simply because I think we've talked about this with a couple other coaches as well on the podcast, but it's strength and conditioning. You think of that, you think of the United States. You don't think of Eastern Bloc. You don't think of UK, like China.
Even though that's where we robbed all of our stuff.
Right. Right. But we're the ones that have taken it, perfected it. And like, I don't think in those countries, especially like Eastern Bloc, like that area. Like I don't think that they're doing strength and conditioning or emphasizing it from a young age. So it has to be technical play.
Not unless you're one of the ones that gets plucked out of the population, identified
Yeah.
as someone that can do it.
Okay, I
Because
see that.
that's where they beat us.
Mm.
Like in the Olympic level, is they, for whatever reason, those Eastern Bloc countries, including China, I don't know how that happens, but they seem to find their good athletes when they're very young, and then develop them from a very young age as these prodigies. I'm curious on how they're finding their prodigies. I also imagine those countries still do probably standardized physical testing in schools and things like that too, which I think is probably non-existent. Did you ever do like a presidential
Oh yeah.
test when you were in
Oh
school?
yeah.
I don't remember them doing it very long after our generation.
Yeah, I can't say that I remember that. I think they probably stopped it because it was probably unfair.
It was bullying, I'm
Of
sure.
course, it was
Probably.
unfair to other people that couldn't
Yeah.
physically do it.
Did they have a leaderboard too? Like
Oh yeah.
who got first and
Oh yeah. Who was last? Yeah, this
yeah.
guy right here. Yeah,
Kid
running the
Rock.
mile. Oh, I'm down there. I was down there.
Gosh,
Not a problem.
have you listened to Kid Rock's new album?
No.
Listen to the whole thing. Every
Okay.
song.
Is
Every
it
song.
delightfully trashy or?
Both. There's some really
Oh,
good songs in there that you could listen on repeat in the gym. Um, but it's also an album where you listen, like, I don't know, you probably don't have to be more than two tracks in to be like, he had to have self-published this. No one was going to publish this for him.
no, no one would actually okay this and bankroll this. Okay,
Yes, yes,
I like where this is going. Yeah,
but he has a line in there that talks about the generation, which I think actually is our generation. At least that's what I remember it happening. I was just we were, at least in how I see it, I was the first generation that we're the first generation that had a lot of the old way and the new way, which, like, I was on teams that only gave out trophies to people that did good, all the way up until everybody got a team. It was actually weird because as a little kid, like playing t-ball and stuff, it was still like you only gave out trophies to the kids that
that one.
whatever it was,
Yeah,
most whatever MVP, most whatever. There's 3 to 5 whatever things you get a trophy for. They were still doing that, and I watched it progress into everybody gets a participation medal.
yeah.
So I knew well enough to know that uh, if you had that experience of earning something and then you get participation, I was just throwing everything else away after that. Like if I didn't get something legitimate, like it had no value, which is the opposite. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Kid Rock makes a reference to that generation as far as being the generation that got trophies, and then you kind of see you see what happened, how that microcosm turned into like maybe a cultural mindset for a generation of kind of how they view things,
Yeah.
and what that has done. And I have to agree with that guy that I think you can trace some of these things back to what we were doing culturally in adolescence, and then that transferring into adulthood, and you see adults with very odd character traits, and I think you could probably trace them back to early adolescent environments and things like that. Things like that. Things like everyone getting a trophy and turning into a generation of you know, expectations of what you think you innately deserve. Because I think there's very little things that you actually deserve, that you should just get. You know.
Well, it definitely encourages the idea that you don't really have to try because I'm gonna get rewarded anyway.
Yeah, and I think yeah, there's value in that, because you might, if you, like I said, that's why I think it's important that you have both of those experiences, preferably in that same order, where you had to do some stuff and you saw the value in it and you really felt like you earned something, and then you get a participation just for showing up.
Hmm.
If you experience it in that order, it makes sense of why the latter isn't very valuable and there isn't a lot of stake there, and why you don't really want to be chasing things in life. But man, does that do something to a mentality for people, just to get complacent, I think, or have very low aspirations for things. I think it's probably more detrimental on a much deeper psychological level than what we give it credit for. I think some people would just conjure it up to being, um, you know, you feel like you deserve something just for showing up, and that can stem into like work environments and relationships and everything. And I think it's not productive because effort has to be put into everything to get a result. And if you're told that you can show up and that's good enough, that does something real bad.
Yeah.
That you have to find, you either undo or you don't undo. I think we're seeing what happens when you don't undo it, and then you have to take the hard steps to undo it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, might be where we're at.
Well, talking about trophies and athletics, let's get into some questions. Great segue.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. That's what I was shooting for there.
All right. So the biggest one I got contacted by a guy who's actually in tactical strength conditioning right now on a base.
Love it.
And he just started, and he wanted to know what were the experiences, what did we find worked, didn't work.
Yes.
When working with Army, when working with the soft community.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think do you know what he was coming from before he got into that college?
Just I think it was like small division 1 or small division 2 college.
Okay. But nonetheless, that kind of traditional strength conditioning startup. I feel like even if you don't stay in college, everyone sort of cuts their teeth at some level interning or whatever, so you kind of understand that environment. That's what you structure things off of. I would say that the biggest the biggest hurdle initially coming out of any environment going to that tactical environment is I think strength coaches in general, and this is probably personality type too, you're used on trying to find the perfect solution for things. And I really think you just have to find something that's suitable, because you have such a diverse population. I think coaches initially like looking at talk kind of like programming and structure and just the base things. Don't chase perfection. Just look for something that's just a suitable solution, because I think it'll work a lot better than you think. I think I kind of overthought stuff initially. Before I implemented it, I think I kind of reined myself back in and found things were going to be very helpful. But I would say just this is anti what I normally kind of think is my mentality, and I don't want to say it and like have low standards at all. I think you just need keep things really, really simple and basic in that environment, and get really good at basic stuff, like really master basic things, basic movement patterns, you know, basic. I don't know if you can really cast. I'll have to go into more detail on basic conditioning, but just keep things simple and keep the quality as high as you can. That's an environment that has been perpetuated on doing more, because this is what I think what you have to really look at. You have to know where you've been, and this is where the crux of strength coaches in the tactical environment, they have no clue where they're coming from, meaning where is the military environment coming from, what, like, you need to know your history on what training looked like when certain tests were implemented, and what that organization looked like over since it started. And you're looking at an environment that basically just kept adding more, like just adding more. So you burn things out, and you get into you dig holes when the notion is just like, now we used to only run a mile, now we run 5 miles, and then it just keeps going up and up and up. We used to, the standard was to hit 10 push-ups. Now it's 30 push-ups. You just keep adding and adding, and that carries over into a mentality where more is better, and the quality is very low in some of these environments because of that. And I'm obviously painting this with a broad brushstroke, because there are some people that either have a little bit more of a training IQ and understanding, and it's gotten better. So it depends what environment and who they've been exposed to, because there's some really good things going on and there's some really atrocious things going on. And I would say that there's there's more there's more ineptitude than there is really savvy training environments transpiring. So um really hammer out the basics, get good quality as far as movement goes, and good mechanics when it comes to running and doing these things. And the there are no side effects, there's only effects. So just know what you're looking at to improve, and then really look at your group of individuals and figure out what is the number one limiting factor, because it was different from group to group. And different, if you're in a brigade full of engineers, you might identify a limiting factor that is totally different than a group of MPs. And I think I guess in the groups that have, if you look at the groups that have had strength coaches in the military for 10 plus years, those are different soldiers and they've been exposed to different stuff, so their limiting factors are different now than they were 10 years ago. um but I think it's going to be different from group to group. So you'll have a limiting factor with some soldiers where it's just like you're overweight and have poor eating habits. Like that's our number one limiting factor. So if we get your body weight down across this group, say this group has, everyone's a little bit overweight, everything's going to improve because that was our biggest limiting factor. Whereas another group, like everyone is generally in good shape and they might just really suck at maybe the technical aspect of some of the things on a PT test, or um maybe they're on the individual level, maybe there's one event that they're just really not suited for because um they're not doing it well for whatever reason. They're not good at it. All the way into, someone's mental state might be their limiting factor. And I think that's more important when you start dealing with smaller groups that are preparing for a school or something. Because a lot of times I see like good athletes, or um, if you're any kind of an athlete, like a decent one in high school, and you go into the military, you're going to look like an all-star in a lot of activities, and you'll be really easy to pick out, like, oh, that person was an athlete, because there's a lot of non-athletes in the military. So if you do come from that background, and you're competitive as well, that sticks out in we'll say like the big army environment pretty well. And for those individuals, um, oddly enough, because I think the environments they're exposed to are controlled, um, that's almost why you're safe being an athlete, generally speaking, with the exception of maybe football, because sometimes there's people out headhunting, like that are trying to hurt you on the field, which changes your mindset as an athlete. When you're on a field where people might be trying to hurt you, which is similar to, you'd say
being
that
shot to death. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
it correlates over somewhat.
Just know, like, we're all in this vicinity, and some people have intentions to really hurt you, like maybe even kill you. I've seen some deranged people that step onto sporting fields, and once you have body armor on, you've weaponized yourself and you're actually trying to hurt people. So that environment can prepare you. But if you played a sport other than that, you've kind of built your mental frame in these environments that are very secure. Like, there's rules. Most people are playing within the rules, and that's a good thing, by the way. And mentally, a lot of those people are not super robust, because all the environments they've been in have been controlled and safe. There's rules. And I think, oddly enough, some of the better athletes, the people that are maybe picked out to go to schools or do certain things, the mental aspect might be the thing that you pick out that is the limiting factor. A lot harder to get to. In which case, then, yeah, changing depends on the time frame and how much time you have. But if you can find ways within training to get after the mental state, and stress people out and put them in a little bit, unknowing situations, which I'm big on telling people what you're going to do the next day in training, like for the whole week, like know the whole month, which is another thing in the military. There's two reasons why this happens. One is laziness, and uh, one maybe is by design. But in general training, at least 75% of the time, or most all the time, unless there's a reason, like tell your soldiers what you're doing. Tell them the training plan. Tell them why you're doing the training plan, and you know, make it very, very clear. Answer questions like, "This is what I've identified. This is why we're doing this." Um, Generally speaking, I think everyone wants that, but in this environment, even more so. Um, you know, Go in, identify those limitations, let them know what you're doing, not just in this training plan, but day to day, what to expect. Um, because the quality of training is going to be better, because otherwise people are going to go out and do their own thing. And it's just like in the environment, you run into people that you do a workout and they don't experience maybe the same amount of fatigue or whatever it might be that they did prior to you working with them. So they want to go do more, and they start to uh, erode the program on their own level because they're wanting to do their own thing in addition to what you already did, because they haven't stuck it out and done the whole thing. So, make everything very clear and upfront. It's important everywhere, in my opinion, but more so in that environment, with the exception of if you're trying to mentally kind of get people to be in unpredictable environments and just add a little bit more stress to them because you feel like that's what they need. Yeah, don't tell them, and do some things that are really hard and make them, mentally kind of burned out, and then, tax them physically when they're in those states. Um, but yeah, generally speaking, yeah, let people know what you're doing and why you're doing it, on the daily, and then try to identify as many individual things in groups as you can so that you can fix the individual as well. And that can kind of be a day-to-day thing, but yeah, those are the big ones that come to my mind, just kind of generally speaking. But things that work well programming wise are, like percentages and things like that. You typically, and you probably had the same thing, your training time windows are fairly small for the amount of stuff that you probably want to get done. And when you're trying to establish just some good training habits with warm-ups and cool downs, and um, mobility is something that I always did kind of individually. Sometimes I'd collectively do stuff as a group, but if I could really break that down, I would just kind of globally say like, hey, if this is what's bugging you, if this is overly tight, work on this. After a few weeks, everyone kind of has an idea like, these are the things I need to work on. I'll do these things, and just give them some time. But if that's built in, keep the training short and intense. Um, uh, that working time of actually doing the hard stuff when it comes to weight training. Stick to the big basic movements and um, body weight patterns, and I don't know, the basic stuff: squats, lunges, bench press, push-ups, inverted rows, pull-ups, all that stuff. And then things that are on the test, you can kind of microdose those things in, that are going to occur, but I don't think you need to hammer those as much as people probably think they do, all the time, because there's carryover. If you increase your deadlift a lot, as long as you have the good mechanics in throwing a medicine ball, that's probably going to make your medicine ball toss a lot better than actually just toss the medicine ball every workout. But a good strength coach knows that. They just have to be able to articulate it to people so that they understand and buy into it. And then relationships, I think, are really critical in that environment, because you're seeing the same people all the time. This isn't something you can really teach, but I'd say invest in make yourself a part of the team and invest in those relationships and try to integrate yourself. This is something that was said a lot in that environment early on. I think you probably heard it too in meetings and stuff that we were in, was about, trying to integrate and make yourself a part of that environment as much as you can. But do it in a genuine way. Don't show up to workouts, wearing a 511 plate carrier and think that somehow that's going to gain, more trust from people. Some people might, but those are people that I wouldn't want to trust anyway.
No.
You want people that can see through that. Just make it genuine. And like I said, if you're a genuine person just all the time, it's not, these aren't things that you actually have to do. It's just who you are. But yeah, be genuine, be consistent with both your personality and your training approach, which goes back to like letting people know what they're doing it, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, whether they look like they're engaged or they care or not. It's important that they know, so that you can kind of start to build these foundations to have these later discussions that inevitably come up with questions. From a programming standpoint, yeah, choose and progression. I favor auto regulation techniques. I think there's a lot of ways you can kind of do that. I always struggled to figure out a good system because my consistency was always higher than the regularity of trainees that I was overseeing. It was difficult to track and measure progression sometimes because of the frequency, which was another reason why I favored auto regulation, because you could really just take it day to day, along with the fact that you just don't know what other people are doing. If people are doing extra stuff and just not listening to you, which will perpetually happen, at least then they're going to perform poorly the next day, and they'll auto regulate to have lesser loads. I think the reasons and the carryover for that is just, I come up with 20 reasons why that is a really effective model, at least initially in that environment. If you get a more specialized group, you can definitely do something more traditional and probably see better results. But yeah, basic movements, auto regulation type stuff, short and intense. Yeah, really just seek quality over quantity in those environments, because there's the quantity has become high and the quality is very low. So that's just a general thing across the board with anything. That's just kind of what I stepped into in most environments, was that's what was going on. So changing that mentality is big. Seeking quality over quantity, just not just in training, but in how they approach everything, I think is a big deal. The other factors that I'm not hitting on, you can go if you have insight at this point, and maybe it'll prompt me to think of the other areas. But I mean, training, the other stuff, I'm trying to think. I mean, yeah, when you're not training, which is another half of your day typically, or how you break up your groups, I don't know, create access to yourself in those environments. I mean, you did this and I did this, but not everyone did this. Was have other varied training times, so people have access to you to even come in. Those, a lot of times those would turn into me for question, and they would turn into what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
they
bartender sessions.
Yes,
that's what it is. That's
and
90% of the job.
I would say those bartender sessions are, it just is what it is. But there's so much value in that time spent with soldiers, and that's really when that was occurring. So I have this, whatever, call it open gym hours, let people, and when, I think this is another critical thing, you have to know when to grab the reins, and or I don't know, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And in those bartender sessions, which is probably a better way to call them, shouldn't be lunch and lift, it should be bartender sessions.
It's talk to you the whole time, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a very, it's like you said, it's probably 90% of the job. So that being said, if that's 90% of the job, then that should be where you're doing your best work. And if that is where you're doing your best work, then you're gonna see the yield from that. Which I had tremendous relationships with my soldiers, and built a lot of trust really early because of that, with new groups. And yeah, find a way to make yourself accessible in those times, and don't um what am I trying, what's the best way to do this? When you're doing PT sessions, like I'm 100% a coach, then like there's no derailing from what we're trying to get done. You're in a time frame, so you gotta stay to the plan. But in those other sessions, especially because they're coming in on their own accord, um like I said, I'm still myself. It's still consistent, but I'm not necessarily, I'm giving guidance, but it's not the same as like a morning PT session where it's like I have these expectations of this is what you need to get done. It's like, this is your time. I'll tell you what's going to be most advantageous right now, but I'm not harping on you in that environment to make sure you get it done. The reason I would harp on people in like a PT session, because if you're not doing your work, it's not that you're just shortchanging yourself. That's not what I'm upset about. It's like you're holding up everyone's workout and you're fucking up the whole thing because you're just not paying attention. You're either doing too many reps because you just think, oh, we're just going to failure and I'll do as many as I can. You're not paying attention, or whatever it might be. Like, you're not paying attention. And it's if you want to be detrimental to yourself, whatever. But if it's hindering the group's performance and you're throwing things off, then that's an issue for me. Whereas you're not going to throw anything off in those open gym sessions. I'm just pleased that you're there and that you care, to spend a little extra quality time, and that's kind of all it should be. Which I've seen coaches try to treat that session like an AM session, and you'll lose favor really quickly because it's hard to ask that of people in that window. But that's I would say the majority was leaning toward, let's have another rigid, structured training session. And the other issue with that is a lot of the people that did well in PT in the morning that legitimately don't need to do anything else, those people would show up to those sessions maybe wanting to do that, but you have to inform them on, there's stuff you can do, but let's do what's most beneficial for you during this time. Let's not just do what we did again and repeat, because that's not the best thing. I don't know. Without being prompted on something else, that's just kind of the first thoughts that roll off my head.
That'd be your answer in general to someone getting into tactical strength and conditioning, like on a first military base. Good key points.
Yeah, I think so. I think the only other thing that I might think about is, you're dealing with soldiers most of the time where, like low ranking soldiers that are going to treat you with the same respect they treat their first sergeant or anyone above them, honestly. But in regards to, you or I being in an environment where there's an expectation that, it's very odd. This is one of these things. You are an authority in an environment where you have no authority. Is that the right way to say that? It should be kind of a jumbo shrimp type of thing. Like, you are in an authority leadership role, but as far as the environment's concerned, or especially anyone above, like higher ranking, you have no authority or say. So anything that you are afforded the platform to voice your opinion, it is likely because you earned it, not because, it's an inalienable right because you're a civilian strength coach that's in that environment. So you kind of earn your rank, in my opinion, in those environments. And like you said, you don't have one, you're a civilian. But as far as the forum and when and who you're allowed to voice your opinion to, is somewhat dictated on how well you've proved yourself, and how well you've been accepted. And that has to do with your quality and just what people deem as how much thoughtfulness you're putting into what's going on. But I would say that, generally speaking, getting into it, I would just treat everyone the same. The highest ranking person that I dealt with, which I don't know, I crossed some,
what, two
stars.
Yeah. Me, that was me, 2 and 1 3.
Yeah. I'm treating the lowest level soldier the same way I would treat that person. there isn't any difference.
Yeah.
There, and I'd be hard pressed to think that someone could compel me to say otherwise.
No, I mean, I think that's a good answer. I think my response to this would have to be, it all depends on the environment you're in. So the end term is battle rhythm. So, Dustin was working JBLM with, military police primarily. I began mine at Fort Knox working with a engineering battalion, and then I ended up going to Fort Bliss to work with the armor division. While I was at Westside and at my facility, like I see operators in there. Now I say operator, I mean like it's like soft community, SEALs, Rangers, Berets, like that level of human. There are two major factions in the U.S. military, and this can be openly debated until I'm wrong, but just in general, you're looking at big Army, big Air Force, big Marines, just like like what you think of Army, that's what you think of. Air Force, you think of Air Force. Navy, you think of like, okay, these guys on the deck, like this is what you think of. And then there's the other faction, which is the soft community. Each one is a level of buy-in on you. Now, soft community is bought into being a physical specimen off the bat because they understand the importance of the body, but they are one of the last people to buy into you.
Yes.
Unless someone in their group says like, this guy or gal, you listen to them. If you don't, I'll cut your throat.
Right.
Unless you have that is a very difficult world to get buy-in to. But to your point, a lot of people say to get buy-in with soldiers, you need to openly adopt everything that base is doing, everything that they say, their lingo and everything. And I've seen it happen twice with coworkers, and it's like from day one, they've never used a 24-hour clock, and all of a sudden they're using a 24-hour clock. And they've never used all these terms, and all of a sudden they're using all of it.
It's
and
a very
comes
simple
across
point.
as comes across very ungenuine.
Yes.
And I made a point, I was the opposite way. I came in like, I'm gonna be me. This is who I am. I do use a 24-hour clock. I've used it since I was 8 years old. So I do have that.
Actually, it's actually very important for doing this. The 24-hour clock is probably the only reason I'm on here for most of these podcasts, is because we use that. Because and that's why for people that don't know, that if you're multi-time zones, the 24-hour clock
is never wrong.
Is never wrong.
Never wrong.
Very, very, very beneficial. But I'm sorry.
It's okay. So these two sects, and then you go, from that you go over to big Army. A lot of those soldiers, 90% of them, can't do an air squat. Like it's very
not a pretty one.
Not a pretty one. And so you have to understand that in that scenario there are two differences. Now, majority of people that get jobs in this are going to be dealing with the big Army, the big military.
Yes.
Now, and again, to your point, you treat everyone the same. Same way, because when they're in that scenario, they want pure unity. They want everyone to be treated the same. Yes. If you're a coach that likes to use language, you got to use language on everybody. If you're a coach that likes to scream, you got to scream at everybody. If you're a coach likes to be quiet and stoic and just address people in their ear, you got to do that to everybody.
Yep.
If you don't, and you try to vary yourself, especially when there are, and I've watched this happen with coworkers, try to vary themselves.
Yeah.
When certain people are in, absolutely not. I remember being told by people like, well, we got X, Y, and Z come in. We got to do X, Y, and Z. And I would tell them like, I'm just going to do what I've been doing.
Yes.
Because everyone who is in charge here and can vouch for what I'm doing loves what I'm doing, loves the way I'm doing it. And every time, like those big dogs leave, and like, that coach is great.
That
he
scenario,
treated everyone the same. It was exactly what I thought it was. It was nothing over the top, nothing crazy, nothing sexy. It's exactly what it was supposed to be. It wasn't anything special. They don't want to be treated special. They want to be treated like everybody else. Yes. It's a unit in and of itself. So you brought up a point of you don't chase perfection, and I'm the same way. The longer I'm in the coaching game, these last 12 years, I like the word precision. And I tell people, like, I don't need a maximal effort. I don't need minimal. I don't even need, I know like Lou was really big into the word optimal. I still use that term, like optimal. Yeah. I love that. But in my mind, for military personnel, use the term precision. I want precision. I want maximal intent. That's what I want. Like you were saying, maximal intensity. Like I want maximal intent. I want precision. And if they don't quite understand precision, you give them a reference of a long gun or really any firearm, and you tell them when you're trying to hit something that's just at your range, maybe just outside your range, do you just bring that trigger down, or do you feel 1 pound, 2 pound, and then bam, it goes? That's what I want you to feel. When you're getting these weights, 20, 40, 60, 80, bam, 100. Precise. That way everything's tight, everything's in control, and that round goes out, those nervous system fires, and it's just where it needs to be. If you haven't started, it's very difficult to get buy-in the first day. If you are the first person there and you have no one who's been there who introduces you, that is one of the biggest things. If you bring a new coach in, please introduce them the first day they work with everybody.
That's a very good
because tip. I'll tell you something, like my first gig, I was not introduced for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
They was like, who is this guy? I had to introduce, which isn't a bad thing. I'm very confident in myself. I'm competent. So I introduce myself and I take care of everything myself. But that is so major, because if they are bought into you or they see you as an authority figure and you say, this is Coach Lasco, he's the new assistant, blah, 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 blah. They're like, oh, okay. So this person that I trust, I've worked with for a long time, is vouching for this guy who is new, I've never met before. So when this guy says something, I'm listening and I'll trust it. I'll trust it. So
you're also making very good points that carry over into the college environment that I've seen
that too
not happen that should. I think it's more important maybe here, but you're hitting on a lot of stuff that for any other coach in those other environments, this is 100% applicable.
And this next line, I've used it. I had the opportunity to use it twice. And if and when I ever work in the tactical sector again with big army, soft community, small groups, I'm going to use it too. After I introduce myself, this is my resume. This is what I've done. I'm not, I'll always say I don't have all the answers. And if anyone tells you they have all the answers or never admits to not knowing something, probably not good. Probably not good.
That's one of your red flags.
Probably not good.
Pretty not good.
Pretty bad. Pretty bad. So this is the first thing I tell everyone when I assumed control, when I took Fort Knox, and when I worked with some smaller groups at Fort Bliss. First thing I told them, I said, I'm gonna huddle before you start anything today. Listen, this is my spiel. I think lifting weights is great. I think it's fun. I center my life around lifting weights. I know maybe I have 10 of you, 9 of you don't. And that's totally fine, because your job is not to lift weights. Your job is not to be a weight room warrior. What I am working with you for, the end goal on everything we do at the end of the day, is this scenario. You are overseas. Your primary runs out. Your secondary runs out. Your tertiary somehow, heaven forbid, gets knocked out of your hands. And it's going to be you or that person across from you going home in a pine box or in a hole. At the end of the day, I want you to come back. So you can come back and do this. And then I end it with this. What you guys do to me is fucking crazy. I'm not going to sign up to go overseas and kill or be killed. That's fucking crazy. You watch me squat and deadlift and bench, you look at that like that's just ridiculous. Why would anyone want to do that? It's the same scenario.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, when you have nothing else but your bare hands, I need you to kill a motherfucker. That's it. That's the bottom line. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about your numbers. I don't care about you're definitely not going to snatch. So don't care about your snatch. Don't care about anything. What I care about is if you are mobile enough and you are available to be lethal. That's the end of the day, is making you into a more lethal person. Every 3 months, do a test. They all do hand-to-hand combat training on a regular. Like, are you handling that person easier and better and swifter? Are you accidentally hurting them? Don't want you to hurt anybody, but did you accidentally do it because you didn't know your own strength?
Right.
It's a bad thing, but it's a good thing. That's really what that speech and that speech in of itself, and that goal, that mentality as a strength coach in that environment got me more buy-in than doing anything else.
For sure.
That was because as soon as you said that, like, oh, this guy gets it.
Yeah, we all have the same intentions here.
Yeah.
Which I can't tell you that the majority get in that environment. The intent is, I want to make you better I want you to be a better performing tactical athlete.
Yeah.
Not that we don't want that, but that is not the foundation of where we're coming from and what we care about. It's exactly that. It's being able to come back, and it's having your life saved because you're more physically prepared.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally, And
Yeah.
if we can do something to better those things and make that happen, yes, that makes so much sense. It's stupid.
Yeah, I would say definitely too, like while you're on base, typically you're going to be there from like 0600, like 1400, maybe a little bit after,
Yeah.
but if you're not doing anything, you have nothing to do, just go out for a walk. Just literally go out for a walk, and people will see you. And at least, even if they don't know who you are, they'll at least see some guy like, yeah, like that guy. Like I'm kind of distinguishable.
Yeah.
I have a handlebar mustache.
Yes.
I had at the time I had like dreadlocks.
Yep.
So like I'd have them in a giant like.
That's what I thought. I almost brought that up when you were doing your own introduction. I was like, it's important that the guy on the military base with the mustache and the dreadlocks does a good job identifying who he is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it was something like, I'm be honest with you, like that's who I am.
I know.
That's who I am. So I was gonna live that. So I remember being told by a captain, there was a major, loved this guy to death. He was really like by the book and stiff-lipped, and I never got him to. I saw him something small once, but he was really stiff-lipped. And at some point, I was doing conditioning, and my conditioning is very different from soldier's condition. I'm doing like a 200 meter like sled pull. I'm stripping it. I'm running 400 meters.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing like cumulative like burpees, and then I'm taking like 30 seconds. I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. I have these dreadlocks coming down. I have a handlebar, and it looks across like, who the hell is that? Why the hell is his hair not shut? And why does he have a mustache that goes beyond that corner of his lips? And the captain was like, "Oh, that's Coach Laska. That's the battalion strength coach." And at that moment, like the major like clicked in his mind, like, "Oh, okay, he's completely different, but he's murdering himself on cement, and it's 104 degrees."
Yeah.
And he's been out here since we've been doing this check walk, and it's been 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That was for the battalion suite. That was the moment I got buy-in from them.
Yeah.
Because I don't mind putting myself down at all. I don't mind. Your point of open gym being open gym, not dictated gym.
Yeah.
I've watched it happen multiple times. People come in, like, again, guys, like if you're looking at, tactical strength conditioning, big army, a lot of guys and gals don't typically go to the gym. So literally just getting them in the gym during open gym to do anything, you just won. They are now comfortable being in an environment of a gym. They're comfortable performing, quote unquote, even if they're doing bicep curls with you around. You're already winning. Already winning that. I've watched them get really upset because soldiers were in there. They were still lifting with like their jackets on. I've watched people get upset because they were coming in doing like dumbbell flies, like asking them aggressively, like, "Why are you doing that?" Like at that point, when they're just look at their body, like they just need physical activity, and if they are enjoying that physical activity, you know what? You let that fly. You let it happen, because they're already getting better. If they need to burn calories, well, for them to walk the mile from where they're stationed through the weight room, they've already burned calories doing that. And they go in the weight room, do like 20, 30 minutes of bis and tries. They burn calories, and they had to walk back. They burn calories already.
That's a good point.
You're already winning. You're already winning. Don't force it. Just kind of throw it. Hey, next time you come in, finish it with a banded superset, the same motions for 100 reps apiece. They'll come back the next day.
Right.
Bet your ass.
Right.
And they'll love it. Love it. Steer into that curve. Like, I think when you and I were at a ForceCom meeting at Fort Bliss, I brought that up. And it wasn't a very popular sentiment, or no one agreed with me, or no one was paying attention. Like, I was like, I just kind of,
probably a third of each.
Probably a third of each. I just, like, open gym, I just let them bro out. I'm like, cool, we're going to do summer of chest. Literally, just summer of chest. And do you know what I do when I do that? I sneak in dumbbell floor press.
Right.
With your elbows tucked in. What does that translate over to? Probably their T push-up. I'll be darned. We're going to sneak in some more tricep. We're going to do a lot of tricep. Get a nice thick tricep pump. And then we're going to finish with the biceps. And then you do that one bicep, that thick tricep pump. They're like, wow, that's incredible. I'm like, I know. Not only that, your pressing is getting better because I've snuck in so much tricep work to make your biceps, quote unquote, feel better.
Right.
Like,
right.
For those, that population, you gotta make it fun. Soft community, you can make it really aggressive because they love that. I love it.
Well, it's on my mind because you brought up a really good point of like that. These are some of the things that when you're getting into the environment, like right out of the gate, things. This is I'm sure I have notes on some of this, but look, you have to think about things you've never thought about. All the parameters of structuring stuff. So when you brought up open gym and that walk they had to take there, these are things I didn't think about the first week because you don't really think about it like on a college campus. Like, what are they gonna have to walk? Like, what's the furthest? Because like people don't have cars on campus,
right?
And some athlete might say like you don't think about it really in that environment really until someone says like, oh, I was 5 minutes late because I don't have a car and I had to walk all the way from the furthest part of campus to make it to this workout. And it's like, is that legit or are you making up excuses? You have to get to the bottom of that. But on a base, actually, you run into the same things, except the distance might be a lot further than a mile.
Yes, much further than a mile. Yeah.
Much further than a mile. And you think like, oh, everybody has not everybody has a car. A lot of people don't have cars. I would like to know the actual number because I think it's
staggeringly low.
Low.
Yeah.
So huge. The things like that, stuff that you wouldn't normally think you have to contend with. As a new coach getting in that environment, if someone hasn't showed you the ropes of like some of the parameters, you got to look at physically, like get on Google Earth, look at a map of like your site, the locations you have to utilize, maybe areas that someone hasn't utilized that you need to go ask questions like, hey, what do you do in this area? Is this a usable space for maybe doing something? Along with, is it, if you're doing like an open gym lunchtime thing, where are soldiers coming from? Where is that in relation to, are they skipping lunch? Are they going to come before lunch? If they're, what are those limitations that you might run into? Because I know when I had a couple locations designated. If I did training at one, I was like, the numbers are staggeringly low. If I do training at another one, it was probably 3 times as many people would show up, even if that was 3 people as opposed to 0. Because of the proximity to where operations and things are transpiring. So you need to think about those things, which is just it's kind of a nuanced thing that you might think, okay, we got a gym over here, let's just have open bartending hour over in this gym. Probably not the best spot though if they have to walk 4 miles to get there because 0 people will show up. Anyway, that's just you brought up some things that like for the new coach coming in that environment. That's one of those things. I think the environment is not as new as it used to be. So there's probably some foundation laid, at least as far as knowing accessibility, locations and stuff like that. But if you're stepping in an environment where you don't get to talk to anyone and no one's giving you the rundown of things, look at those things and then ask so many questions.
Yes. And genuinely ask them.
Don't be
a cunt. Like, genuinely care.
Genuinely ask questions and be thoughtful about asking those questions. And there are I see strength coaches actually being more intimidated in that environment than the soldiers they're training because it's just foreign. Don't be intimidated. Let your ego down and just any question that you might have, ask that question. Try to figure out how things are structured and what's going on there. And if you're everyone understands you're totally foreign to this environment and everyone around you was totally foreign to this environment at one time or another. No one was born into the military. Obviously you have some military rats that know things very well, but ask a ton of genuine questions just to figure out what's going on. And that's the best place to start. Everything you don't understand or every time a question pops up, have something with you, write it down, and then ask people.
Because they'll love to tell you.
They'll love to tell you.
You know what the best thing, find out what their specialty is. And what's really going to be awesome is when you find a demolition expert and ask them, hey, tell me about C4. Tell me about deck cord. And it's just, well, you just spent 30 minutes learning about C4 and deck cord. And you go to the field with them, they toss up. Like, you ever been like tossed a lump of C4?
No, I have not been tossed a lump of C4.
It's hilarious. They threw it, and the guy who caught it was like, oh god, like, no, it's fine. It needs a primer. Nothing's gonna happen. It's a block of clay, and he's like throwing it around at people, like smacking people with it. Oh, it's great. That's great.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of those conversations, especially with stuff that is really interesting. Yeah, that's how those conversations first pop up. You don't even know what you can ask people until you know what they got going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, then at least if you're genuinely interested in that environment, kind of what's going on, yeah, you have tons of fantastically organic conversations because yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting environment.
That those questions too, they open the door to get, especially when you get to like the sergeant first class level, like captain level,
Yeah.
to getting an opportunity to go in the field and watch them. And then, you know, if you spend enough time with them, they trust you. You've been cleared already.
Absolutely.
So you might get a chance to pull the plunger.
100%.
You just might get a chance to shoot M4 with military grade ammunition, which is
100%.
Which is really fun, by the way.
100%.
You know,
that's
really,
what that goes back to what I was saying though.
Yeah.
You afford yourself those opportunities. They aren't they aren't a right.
They're not given to you.
And if anything, sometimes with certain things, depending on what's going on and where it's going on at, yeah, you have to have legitimate trust, not clearance, legitimate trust.
You have to do that. Here's a grenade. Here's a live
participate or even be afforded the opportunity to be in those environments, because I know many people that will never be told what's going on at the range because maybe they let the old strength coach go out there, but they're not letting you go out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it
yes,
takes a while, but you will see things and experience things at that point that a very small fraction of population get to experience, and even smaller fraction of non-military personnel get to experience. And you can actually have that. Like I've told you, I told a lot of people I'm close with that I'll do almost anything once, not everything. There are a couple things still in my mind I will not do, but like
we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other underground podcast. It has been banned, by the way. But yeah, I'll grow my hair down to my belt. I'll do dreadlocks. I'll do a Viking braid. I've shaved my legs once when I was like senior in high school, and then I shaved them one more time to maintain it. Completely respect women shaving their legs. That's shitty.
It's a task.
Oh, you've done that. Well, you've done that. Competed for a show. So like,
I always do it now. You know why?
Oh, really? Why?
Because the babies pull it out.
Oh no!
And
really?
It got
they get a hand and just whip it.
It got so because I got pretty long leg hair, especially. It got so annoying and so frustrating that I was like, I'm shaving my legs again. This is actually layered, and like Hallie's always
easier.
Hallie's always wrestling and crawling with me, and she learned that she can pull hair out of my legs, so I went back to shaving them. I'm like a seal again.
Yeah. I think that
I'm gonna do the Viking braid here and the mustache after.
Oh, okay. So
season.
Think about that, because I had a Viking braid and a beard for a while, and the reason I shaved it, swear to you, I'm at West Side, and this is like Saturday evenings when I'm squatting, putting the lead chain up. I have like 4 chains on a giant cambered bar, so it's a little low, and it comes up and it comes down. It comes down with my beard. My head doesn't go down. The beard comes down though with it.
That's an odd pulling sensation.
That's when I shaved it. That was like that night. It's gone.
I was gonna say you probably didn't have to shave it. I'm surprised it didn't come straight out of your face.
It did. Those whole chunk came on my face, and it grew back. You know, I have a giant scar on my chin, so like I think that it like compensated in other places, just like growing out. Yeah. But
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna take it for a test spin, because this was growing well. I feel like that'll probably take, I don't know. I feel like growing it out to the point of braiding, that might take a year.
That takes a while. Yeah, it takes a while. Yeah, it took me about a year and a half.
That sounds about right. That's a solid commitment to be able to braid your.
Because you're talking about too, like every 6 weeks you're having to cut a 1/4 inch off.
Sure.
Keep dead ends off. So you're taking like 2 steps forward, take 1 step back every time.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to not look like
good healthy hair,
unkept. Yeah, I didn't realize how important that was, but this hair's so thick. Yeah, I started realizing that mustache hairs start splitting.
Yeah,
pretty easily.
But in the military, going back to that conversation, you can't have a beard.
Sorry,
you can have a mustache that goes out to your corner of your mouth.
Can you cheat the system? Do you just start curling it a lot tighter?
No. I'll tell you what. When I was at Knox, because I had this.
What are they going to say?
Dude, the lieutenants love that. Yeah,
if you had it just curled in so tight,
nope,
that it's out inside your lips, because you could do that.
Nope. Though, so I did. One of the generals I met. He actually, ironically, when he was stationed in Africa, he was out in Morocco, and he's an SF community guy. He walked in. The first thing he said when he walked in, like the gym door, he looked at me. He's like, that is an incredible mustache. And immediately I'm like, I like this guy. I have no idea who you are, but I like you. I started talking to him like he was just like, another guy. And I
Yep.
find out later he's like this like 2-3 star like general. So I was talking about like how he had he grew a mustache. He was like in Morocco, stationed in Morocco
Yeah.
for like 4 months, grew it out, had to come back. And he's like, I held on to it as long as I
long as you
could
could.
until I knew I couldn't, and then I
Yeah.
had to cut it off. But that same guy again, SF community guy. First thing he said, he's in there and he has all like the CSM, the mage, like all like the top dogs in the battalion suite
Yep.
with him. He looks to the end of the weight room and he sees the safety squat bar, and he's like, "Oh, you guys have a safety squat bar? That's great." Looks back at the battalion suite guys like, "Have you guys ever used a safety squat bar before for your squats?" And they're like, "What?" He's like,
Yeah.
"It's the best ever.
That's
It's
a
so
funny
difficult,
question.
but it's so great. It's so great for everything. It makes everything easy."
That's a comical. That's a comical question because I've seen individual. You always run into one typically if you have the full battalion suite. That's like, I like this guy. There's always one in that group, and I loved when people would say stuff like that. I remember one specifically that would do stuff like that. When he'd make comments like that, I'd be looking like, I think he's asking a rhetorical question because he knows every motherfucker in here hasn't not only not used the safety squat bar, they haven't used the regular
bar.
Yeah. And that's why he was doing it.
Well, that's why I think like because he was, like our battalion was actually out of a division out of Bragg. And he was from Bragg.
Sure.
The Brass like just checking up on everything. And I'm like, man, I bet the guys and gals at Bragg, I bet there are some G's. Because that is an active. That's you think of the Army. That is the Army's base, Fort Bragg.
Yeah,
it's its own state.
Yeah.
So
that was also that's interesting too because I didn't start with MPs. I started in another group, and the group that the brigade that I specifically started with, they were blacklisted. So I first started training soldiers that could not do anything at all, go anywhere.
They're on profile.
And the prospects were nil.
Yeah.
And I think it'd been that way for a while because of some things that happened that you can't talk about.
Yeah, I know.
But that changes the training culture in general when everyone knows like we're not doing anything.
It's all off season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It should be awesome.
It should be. You're right.
But it's not because you have a whole bunch of people that in that group that wanted to do stuff that there was no way that was going to happen for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And it wasn't their fault.
No.
Anyhow.
Were they any of them on profile, or were they all like able?
Oh, everyone was able.
Able. Well, okay.
With the exception of, the general profiles, but this was a singular event that just happened to transpire within that. I'm trying to think if they blacklist like the whole brigade or just that battalion. It might just be that battalion.
Oh, well, operational security. We both passed that twice. So, all right.
I didn't say anything that I'm not supposed to say, right? That seems
no, you're good.
I kept it within.
You kept within confines.
There's no. It's been a while since I took my test.
All right. So, do you have a question? I gotta get across town here pretty soon, but.
Yep.
All right, what do you got?
Well, let's see. How much time?
Give me a good one.
What is good? I don't know what's good for you.
Well, not nutrition. I'm not an RN.
I do have one of those.
I like Scotch.
But I'm still curious because you have to know enough.
I know a little about a lot.
This would be an okay nutrition question for you, I think, because it's not nutrition alone. Let's go with this one.
Oh.
I'm just curious.
It better be good.
I think it's good. So you get blank slate canvas Joe that comes into your gym, and they have no real goals other than I want to get in shape. And let's pretend they have the motivation for whatever reason, but I guess they could be, previously been in shape or not. Doesn't really matter. I just say if you were to kind of list like systematically, what is the best approach to get that person in shape do you consider that you have your own system? Like I don't
have a nutrition system.
Not a nutritional system, just a training training and all, like an all-encompassing thing. You get someone that just says like, tell me it all. Because you would generally tell someone like, you know, they're like, hey, I'm doing everything you want training wise. Do you have any just suggestions of what I should do? You know, just so I'm not being a total asshole when I'm eating, like nutrition wise, or like what might help me after I work out or whatever. Do you have, or you don't even have to touch on the nutrition, just from a training standpoint, where do you start someone just like brand new, fresh off the boat, and kind of progress through? Like, what are you interested in building with them, and what kind of key points? I kind of have 1, 2, 3, 4 points of what I think are important to kind of attack, not specifically, but just kind of 4 general points. Like, we're going to do this first, and then kind of move into this, and maybe add this or whatever it might be. How do you get someone in shape if they don't have? You deal with people with specific goals.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
that seem to be
very specific goals.
That seem to be highly motivated. So
incredibly highly motivated, and by like major financial and life and death games.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So I really don't have that problem.
Anytime I see you post something, I know that you're dealing with people that are not like. At least that's also how my people are that I work with right now. But that's not the general norm. I'd almost say if someone approached you and you were just giving them free advice on this is the best way to phrase this, actually, because this is how I answered it. Someone pretend we have a caller right now that called in and said, where should I be starting to in my fitness journey just to get in shape? What things should I be looking at, and where do I go? Very general.
So this is very akin to the question you asked one of our last coaching Q&As. We had that gentleman from Seattle who's dead rich.
How do you remember that?
And it's getting to work out. I have a mind like an elephant. Right.
That is.
Yeah, so I did. Unfortunately, this is going to be very, very similar to that answer, which is you're going to go to the gym 3 times a week. Okay. The first time you go in there, you're going to do probably just keep it to a box squat so you know your depth. Make sure it's 2 inches below parallel. A box squat 5x5 where you have 2 or 3 reps left in the tank. Leave the gym. Come back on Wednesday. Bench press 5x5. Keep 2 or 3 reps in the tank. I don't know what this weight is. Don't know. As long as your shoulder blades are pinned together and your form is where it needs to be, it's good. Leave the gym. Come back in on Friday. Deadlift 5x5. Keep 2 or 3 reps in the tank. Sumo or conventional. I know sumo's the devil for a lot of people. Unfortunately, for a lot of people too, it's more of an athletic movement. I hate to break it to you. It uses more hip, keeps you in a more upright position. Sorry.
Have you noticed
to do that to you?
I don't want to do this. I don't want to derail you. I'm also going to, for the rest of this question, I'm going to pretend to be the guy.
Oh, God.
So I'm going to say, but Joe, should I be eating a deficit of calories right now? Or
so this is a nutrition question. You're killing me.
No, it's not a nutrition question. I'm just saying, you gave me the program. You're telling me to train 5 days a week. Are you just going to tell me like, no, shut the fuck up and just do the program. Don't ask any more questions, which is fine if you say that. But I might say like, well, I am tracking my food in my Fitness Pal and I'm in a deficit. Do you think that's advantageous for this program right now? I've been
how long have you been in the deficit, Dusty?
6 months.
Oh, well, how do you feel in that deficit, Dusty?
I feel lethargic and I'm struggling right now, especially after that deadlift day of sumos.
Oh, well, that's good. You have 2 days of rest before you go back in for squats then. That's what it sounds like to me. This is what I tell people with eating. Like, okay, are you eating a lot of garbage? No, not really. Are you drinking a lot of alcohol?
I mean a ton of garbage.
Well, cut half the garbage out. Not all of it. Just cut half it out.
Okay.
You eat 10 brownies, eat 5. I don't give a shit when you eat them.
Okay.
You're already winning at that point. You've cut 5 brownies out.
Okay.
So the other thing I ask is, do you drink alcohol? And they're always gonna tell me yes. I very rarely ran into someone who's like, no, I never touch the stuff.
Yep.
So like, all right, how many drinks do you have a week? Okay, well, let's be honest. Like when working with the military, they're like, well, I drink like maybe 2 or 3 fifths. Okay, all right. So this is what I want. Do you drink that all at one time? Yeah. All right. Cut that in half. Let's cut it in half. Because at that point, you're already winning.
Yeah.
You're already winning by going to the gym doing this. You're already winning by cutting your junk in half and your alcohol in half. And just let that ride.
Yeah.
Let it ride for 3 weeks. At the end of 3 weeks, readjust. If you're seeing changes, your strength is going up, just let it ride again for another 3 weeks. At that point, about 5, 6 weeks, if it's starting to slow down, probably got to bump up, protein or the carbohydrates
Okay.
in a good way. But I am not. That's so far outside my wheelhouse. I you
Nope.
know
That's
I don't touch it.
no, generally speaking, yeah. Not to mention when you're if you were to give a person advice like on the street where you got 5 minutes to just kind of get them within boundaries.
Yeah.
That's it. No, that's exactly the answer. That losing paint cans off the wall.
Oh.
Um. Good.
Yeah. What was your
No,
answer to that?
no. I just say it's pretty basic. My emphasis would be strength, which that's the same thing you said. I'm
Mhm.
gonna go more general than you did, even less specific. But I'm gonna focus probably on strength with the person. We might dash in a little bit of maybe some higher volume stuff at the very end of the workout, just for some metabolic stress potentially. But we're gonna focus on strength. So I'd like something to do like a 5x5. Maybe finish with a body weight movement of some sort where they can maybe push it for some reps at the end. But like you said too, if they're doing something really bad nutrition wise, just cut it down. So it could be they're eating a bunch of garbage, like cut the garbage out. um Oftentimes if they're being conscious of it and they're paying attention to what they're eating, I usually tell them to eat more because they haven't been training.
Mhm.
And if they're in the case that I'm laying out where someone's probably been in a deficit for a while, I want I want to get their metabolism up, and I want them to be recovering from their newfound workouts as much as they can. So I want them not in a big surplus, but a little bit of a surplus. Try to get there, and then just make sure that you're making progress in your workouts, whether you're adding a rep or a little bit of weight or the intensity's a little bit higher. Whether it be, I mean, you with a new person, like just showing that they're controlling the weight better is progress.
Significant. Yeah.
Significant. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
are you able to do the same reps in a little bit of shorter rest time? Is the quality of the reps look better? You're not shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds through rep number 3,
Mhm.
of 8 reps. That's all you're looking for. And then inevitably someone always asks, like, cardio. How much should I be doing? I'm already doing 5 times a week of cardio.
Mm.
Um, Usually drop it down because cardio is a great tool when you're getting in
Yeah.
shape.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, cut that shit the fuck out.
Probably cut it
Ah.
out. If
Yeah.
it's a mental thing where they like doing it, or there's things, there's ways to maybe have it in there. I like to microdose it. I don't like to take it out completely unless someone just like, I don't like doing cardio. Okay, good. We're not going to do any at all. We don't need to. Not necessary. But if someone really, really wants to do it, a low level of general stuff, some minimal amount of cardio, I I I would fit it in there. But I'm not using it as a tool to lose weight. I'm using it as a tool at that point just for, we call it general health purposes. Might have a couple low intensity. It depends what they like. Also, we might have a short high intensity stuff, 8 minutes of high intensity training, and that be it. Or maybe a lot of people like putting on a podcast and doing some low intensity stuff as well.
Right.
But still, I'm limiting that significantly
Yeah.
because if the goal is to eventually, get in really good shape, that's a tool that I want to save in the bank
Yeah.
for later days so
Absolutely.
that we can dive into that pit. But if we've already taxed that a bunch to the point where I have a lot of clients that they do enough cardio. And this is generally over the whole broad spectrum, even dealing with college athletes. Females, especially if they're doing extra work, they're doing cardio. Males, if they're doing extra work, they're doing bicep curls and tricep extensions in college. But it's a good thing to note that females are doing it to lower their body fat almost always. They're not doing it to be in shape to be better at their sport. Otherwise, they'd be doing different types of conditioning, or they'd be doing speed work, or they'd be doing speed work if they knew what they should know. But that is a tool to lose weight later on when you're trying to get maybe more cut up or something, that I don't want to overuse early on. I want to save that as a tool that I can actually dive into and have at my disposal.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Aceto said that says that too. It's just like you don't know if you're starting to get in shape or you're starting to work out and you start a diet, a training regimen, and cardio. Well, you don't know if it was the diet, the training regimen, or the cardio. Like, you don't know. You know, which is why I'm not big on throwing obscene amounts of things at someone at one time, because you just don't know what that one factor is going to do. You just don't know.
Yeah, and some of my favorite like general programs to get people initially started on are lower rest type of programs. So they have a higher heart rate than I would typically carry during the whole workout. You don't need to do an excessive amount of cardio after that to be getting the results that you want. If anything, it's probably going to be detrimental.
Yeah.
You know, a nice easy brisk walk in the evening, that's helpful, you know.
Yeah.
That's like meditation.
Right.
That's a different thing. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I will say for I gotta sign off here real quick, but I will say for general, if you have someone who's like dealing with like they're out of shape, overweight, I think the real popular thing to do, even according to ACSM guidelines, is to have them do cardio and to have them start a deficit nutrition program and things of that nature. And this is something I've been I've always been like the anti of that for as long as I can remember, because in my mind, especially when you're dealing with men and very competitive women, one of the last things they want to do is do cardio. Mm-hmm. So if I'm dealing with someone who's overweight and they're trying to get stronger, I know physiologically, scientifically, muscle mass burns calories, it burns fat. That's what it does. It weighs more than fat and it burns fat. It's one of its functions. So
even when you're not using it.
Right. So if I start them on something simple, again, like I mentioned, like a 5x5, and after a while that kind of dies out, like, okay, cool. So that kind of dies out. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna pull a sled instead now. I want you to pull this sled for one trip, you know, whatever the trip is, down and back as much weight as possible. The heart rate's gonna go up. But by that point, they're kind of enjoying the fact of like going to the gym. And they get the idea of good pain versus bad pain. They get a massive, you know, they put a sled properly, massive, like just pump in their lower body, and they love it. Like, cool. So next time they come in, we're going to knock that down to 70%, and we're going to do repeat trips of it. The heart rate goes up. Like you say, the rest period is a little lower. You're just burning more calories. And when they go back to their squat, their deadlift, it's probably going to be better. So I slowly start sneaking that stuff in. That's how I kind of get that conditioning aspect out of them until you get to a point where like those don't work. You add the auxiliaries. Now you're going through a full training session with, you know, the main lift, 3 or 4 auxiliaries, sled work, and then it's like, okay, cool. Now that's not going. All right, cool. Now what are you eating? What aren't you eating? Let's adjust that. That's gonna spike all that for another 2 or 3 months. Cool. What's that look like? All right, cool. At that point, we're talking like 7 months in the hole. Now they're into it. They're in the life now. Their whole Instagram profile scrolling has changed. It looks completely different than it did before. Their YouTube, what they're looking at, everything starts changing around their mind, what they're intaking and what they're hearing. And now it's like, there's no problem that they come in like, cool, do all that and get on that elliptical for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Like now you add that in. They don't. Not only does it actually apply at that point, because now you need to, like you said, like dive deeper in that hole. But now you're talking about expanding that level of GPP even further.
Yeah.
It's just and they're psychologically they're fine with it. It's not a fucking chore to get on a piece of cardio equipment anymore. Yeah. It's not. So
I would love to dive into that more on that aspect that you're talking about, where you're taking in new things, not just on social media, but in general.
That changes your mentality.
After you're into it, that changes your mentality so much. And then you get to the side of visualizing like what you want and how you're going to do it before you actually do it. Then you're onto something.
Yeah.
Then you're onto something. That's where some real, like, that's when you see the great people doing it. I don't know how they all do it. That's probably a question I should add in general that I probably should have asked to a lot more people we've already had on. But it is, how much how much time did you spend thinking and visualizing about what area you wanted to be or what you wanted to look like or how that would feel? I'd be very curious to hear about some of the great like champion type mindsets that we've had as far as what were they doing mentally? Like how much time did they spend in visualizing like standing on that podium at the CrossFit Games or being on that stage and getting first? I would be curious to know. We need to make a note of that to ask that question to these people.
I bet Ron Partlow has some good answers to that.
I would love to have him on again.
Oh,
I don't want to say this because I've said this about multiple people. He might be my favorite person to talk to.
He's pretty awesome. He's a pretty awesome dude.
He's just so,
and he's honest too. Like he
exactly.
He'll tell you like this is like, well, a lying leg curl is not sexy. You're right, but it works, doesn't it? And we're gonna run that for 6 weeks,
exactly.
3 months, 4 months. We're just gonna run it. Keep changing the questions on it. We're just gonna keep running it because it works. I don't know what to tell you. I bet if and when we ever gonna have Dorian Yates on, I bet that'd be a great conversation too. He's gonna say the same thing.
We will. The goal. We don't have any goals for the podcast, but secretly in the back of my head, if I'm spending time visualizing something, it is to have Dorian Yates on the podcast. Yeah. If it ends after that, I'm good.
Yeah, we can. Our first 4-way could be Dorian Yates and Tom Platz.
That's sexy.
I know.